is patient, and our God waits, and our God longs for us to just come and be with him. He doesn't ask for a long length of time. He just asks for a visit every now and then. Jesus invites us day after day to come and rest our weary bodies. He invites us to sit comfortably at his feet. He invites us to spend time with him. But living room intimacy costs, doesn't it? It costs us self-discipline. I'm a real nun. And yet, I struggle between the balance of living room intimacy and kitchen service. I struggle to balance my time with the Lord in prayer and my busyness about many things, as was Martha. And I suspect all my life I'm going to struggle to balance that one isn't higher or takes more of my time than the other, but that because of the time that I spend with my God, the rest of my life flowers like a beautiful rose. And so, while Jesus' response to Martha sounds harsh, and I can only imagine the hurt that Martha felt, I think Jesus took the wind out of her. Whereas she was thrilled to receive him into her home, now her guest has hurt her. But Martha didn't stay in the hurt. No. She learned, indeed, what living room intimacy is, and she learned, indeed, what the better part was as she grew in grace and wisdom. And we too are called to grow in grace and wisdom. In her book, Having a Mary Heart in a Martha World, and Joanna Reaver talks about a friend of hers who was invited several people to a festive meal for an occasion. And running around, setting the table, preparing the food, she realized she had not had lunch. And actually, the time was near getting closer to the dinner time, to the party. So she went to her closet and she pulled out a Snickers. And she said, "Oh, this will satisfy my hunger." So she took a Snicker and she ate it. And indeed, it did satisfy her hunger. However, when her guests came and they sat down to eat, they enjoyed all the food she prepared, and she only picked because she had been filled by that Snicker. It must have been a giant size. But anyway, I think we're that way with the Lord at times. I think during our days, we take breaks for the Snickers in our lives, whatever that Snicker is. It needn't be food. Oh, it could be anything. It could be a TV program. It could be calling up a friend. It could be reading a very holy scriptural passage on the internet. It could be a myriad of things. But we do it to satisfy us for the moment. Or sometimes we play solitaire or free cell on the internet. I mean on the computer, right? Yes. We do these kinds of things sort of as a self-reward, as a self-filling, when in fact, who's the only one who can fill our lives? Who's the only one that is the center of our lives? I can't answer that for you, but I can answer it for me. It's the very God who called me into being. The very God who called us into being. I said that Martha had gradually learned what it was to balance her life and to become more engaged in living room intimacy. And there is proof of that in John's Gospel. Luke tells us about Martha and Mary's sibling rivalry. Who got the better part and who got the worst part. But in fact, they both had a good part. They were both in the presence of Jesus. But then John comes along, and in John's Gospel, he tells us the story of Martha and Mary's brother Lazarus, who has died. And he goes on to tell us Mary and Martha's response to Lazarus' death and how they greeted Jesus when he came to their home. Now, I don't know if you're going to see a little humor in here, and I don't know if you're going to see a little shift in living room intimacy and kitchen service, but I'd like to just read part of the passage from John for you. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he found Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. The village was not far from Jerusalem, just under 2 miles. Now, I may stop here because Luke tells us that Mary and Martha lived north of Jerusalem. John tells us that Mary and Martha lived just 2 miles south of Jerusalem. The village was, no, neither was lying. It was just, they both had different perspectives, you see, because in John's Gospel, Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem for the Passover. The village was not far from Jerusalem, just under 2 miles, and many Jewish people had come to console Martha and Mary over their son. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, while Mary sat at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would never have died. Even now, I am sure that God will give you whatever you ask of him." Jesus replied, "Your brother will rise again." "Lord, I know he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day." "I am the resurrection and the life," Jesus said. "Whoever believes in me, though they should die, will come to life. And whoever is alive and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," said Martha. "I have come to believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world." After she said this, Martha went back and called on Mary. In a whisper, she said to Mary, "The rabbi's here, and he wants to see you." As soon as Mary heard this, she got up and she went out into the direction where he was standing. The Jews who were in the house with Mary, consoling her, also got up quickly. These were the official mourners. So they followed her, thinking she was going to the tomb and weep there. When Mary came to the place where Jesus was, seeing him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had only been here when my brother had died, he would never have died." We're going to stop there. What did you hear in this story? Anyone? What did you hear? Yes.
Well, definitely the reversal of roles, that Mary is back home, Martha goes out, and Martha expresses her growth in faith from the first time period to the second time period, and "Lord, I believe that you're the Messiah."
Thank you.